Hello.
Jordan. Hey, man.
Hey, how's the audio? Is it coming off my phone
Yeah,
or is it coming out of these shitty little...
I think it's coming off your phone.
Okay, good.
But I mean, that's
Your audio
me
sounds okay.
If it
saying
doesn't sound like total garbage, then I think you got the right one.
Yeah.
sweet. No, it doesn't sound like
Yeah.
total garbage. So we're good. We're good.
Hey, man. How's it
Cool. It's a
going?
good way to start. Cool. It's fun to see you guys.
It's fun to see you too. I mean, I'm always watching you on the internet, so like I'm weirdly seeing you without you knowing all the time.
Hey, the same goes for you guys too.
Yeah, we're super excited that you had some time and you could come and hang out with us and talk about art and talk about things that you have in your collection, which I'm sure, like us, is like full of beautiful things.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited.
Yeah.
I'm curious to
Yeah.
see like what you're gonna pull out.
Oh, I've got just I just got some. I got a lean collection here because I'm in between. I was displaced from the whole COVID thing that's going on, so I'm in Quebec now, and
Oh, you're in
you
Quebec.
know, yeah, I'm in kind of like a temporary living spot right now, and I'll be in Quebec for some time for sure. But yeah,
Whereabouts?
in Eastman, Quebec right now, so
I
I'm in
have
the
no idea
Eastern
where that is.
Townships, essentially a little bit southeast of Montreal.
Oh, okay.
So
Cool.
living rurally next to the trees, which
I
is
know I'm
cool.
loving all of the like bird. I mean, I always like all of the birder and wilderness posts that you put up. I've Jordan is someone that I literally, if I see a bird that I can't identify, I will like write a description to him in a direct message and not even an image, and he'll be like, "This is the bird you were looking at," which is my
Yeah,
favorite thing.
a friend the other day was like, I saw a flying mustache. What is it? And I was like, oh, it's probably this. And he was like, no, it's not that. I was like, okay, well, I
I
have no
guess it's a
idea.
mustache.
Like, and then he sent me like one of those iMessage like drawing things where you can like draw a little thing. And he was like, this was like a week later. He was like, it looked kind of like this. And at first I was like, it's not gonna help. And then I looked at his little tiny goofy quick sketch and I was like, oh, that's a turkey vulture. And I sent it to him and I sent him a picture of what I thought it was. He's like, yeah, that's the bird. I was like, whoa, I can't believe that worked.
That's
That
amazing.
is awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we'll start with you introducing yourself, talking a little bit about your practice. And for anybody that doesn't know what this is Kyle and I sharing art with another artist and talking about the art that we're sharing, flat files. We had a friend recently that was like, I wasn't fully aware what a flat file was until you guys started doing this series, which I kind of loved because I think it's something we take for granted. Like, we literally have 5 flat files in our bedroom.
Oh my God. Wow.
So yeah, it's a lot. It's a
In
lot.
case you don't know what a flat file is, it is a filing cabinet, but it is very skinny and long and holds all of our paper goods that we like cast into the darkness and rarely open.
So it's been fun opening it a weekly.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I don't even I haven't had the privilege of owning flat files yet, but I just got like the art school portfolio folders and like tubes filled with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even have everything here, so I just took a little rummage through what I last had like on the wall in my other apartment, and I found some like nice little prints, and I was like, oh, cool, and like I don't think I would have gone through that stuff if you guys hadn't asked me to do this. So I was like, oh wow, I forgot I had this print. Oh, I have this print. Oh, cool.
Yeah, it is kind of the joy. You like go on a little discovery treasure hunt in your own space.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really nice. It made me want even more though, to be honest. I got in there and I was like, oh, I want to find like 50.
Yeah, no, I understand
Uh,
that as
I'm
well.
sure you guys have a lot more than 50 on your end.
Yeah, definitely.
I think so. I have like a giant stack of like when I taught at Loyalist, like our students would often gift us art. And like
Yeah.
you'd get rid of like the bad ones, but like I have like a little stack of like these are amazing student works. And I'm
hmm
one day I'm gonna pull those out for flat files.
hmm
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, I wish I was still had access to the uni. It's not my personal collection, but in the print shop at Waterloo, there are some bonkers good prints there, like stuff I can't even believe that undergraduate students were making that stuff. Like
Yeah.
there was some really hot work. So anyway,
All right. Introduce yourself, please.
oh man, should I go full interview mode? Hi, I'm Jordan Blackburn. Good, I got some laughs, so it was worth it. Yeah, I'm a printmaking artist, primarily, I would say, although I haven't made a really serious print except for some of my fun little patches and stuff. I do some lino cut carving, um, and make some simple stuff like that. And then also in my sort of more fully flushed art practice, I have quite an interdisciplinary practice. So in the last year, I've made some sculpture, some soft sculpture. I've been doing a lot of writing lately, so writing poetry and dictating that, and I'd like to make some more books and stuff like that. So it's kind of all across the board based on whatever serves the idea best. So idea-wise, I mostly focus on two main foundations. One is sort of a sort of sense of identity or finding a sense of place or home in a way or appartenance. And the other part would be looking at complex relationships between human beings and nature, natural spaces, natural forces, things we do and don't consider nature. It really like, if you can fit it in between like outside and people squished together, I've probably spent some time looking at it and I probably want to learn more about it. So that's probably the
Perfect.
quickest way to summarize what I do.
And if you start following Jordan online, which I highly recommend, the like readings that you do on your stories of poems is so nice.
Mm.
I really enjoy it so much.
Cool.
Um,
That's nice to hear.
so let's dive into it. Do you want us to start, or would you like to start?
Oh man, should we
We
flip a
go
coin
back
or
and
something?
forth.
You wanna?
Um,
I mean,
I
we
mean,
can
you can
start
flip a
on.
coin. I don't have a coin.
I don't
So
have a
you're
coin
the
either. I usually end up flipping some sort of odd object that shouldn't be flipped, like a phone or
yeah. Don't do that.
No, don't do
Don't
that.
not
do that.
sure.
It would be an experience for us, to see the phone go in the air and then smash and then lose
Oh,
you.
that'd be kind of cool, actually.
If it's space though, we're
I'll
good.
let you go first.
Okay. So our first is we don't actually own the art that we want
This
to
will be
talk
backwards
about,
for everybody, right?
but we have the book like a record of it, which is what we're showing. So this book um, is a exhibition like publication of The World Upside Down, which was curated by Richard William Hill. And the reason we're showing this is because it was an exhibition that we volunteered for. We didn't participate in it. We weren't part of the exhibition, but we volunteered when we were in undergrad for a project by artist Terrance Houle. I hope that I'm pronouncing his name properly. And he's a First Nations artist in, this is Terrance. Well, Terrance is on the cover. And the piece,
You want me to check the index?
there's a lot of artists that are part of this project. So the piece that we participated in was called, I think it was called like Open Calls or Casting Call, maybe. I think it was called Casting Call. And so not only are Terrance's pieces like really amazing, he talks a lot about Indigenous history, sort of like recontextualizing the history of Indigenous peoples in Canada. But he also just talks about sort of social constructs and like disrupting them. So this particular piece, he was inviting the public to come in to these casting calls, and you would be reading for like an old Western movie, but anybody that came in who was First Nations would read the white people roles, and anybody that was white would read the First Nations roles. I don't know, this is someone else. Where is Terrance's picture in here? This book is really great. I would highly recommend it. So this is Terrance here. The picture of the casting fall isn't in there. So this piece and the one that's on the cover was another piece that he had done. These were on like billboards up in Kingston. And essentially he dressed in like traditional powwow regalia and went and did just regular normal day things like going to the grocery store, going to work, being on the subway, and being photographed doing these like everyday activities. So, you know, he's really interested in like the intersection of like how that history is seen in like kind of normal everyday situations in a contemporary context, but then also like mixing them up and having conversations about how we look at those relationships historically. And not only do I just really like Terrance's work, but I would also say that something that I really loved about being in undergrad or like being in institutions, like a school of some sort, or even like working with a gallery or something, is that you have these opportunities to get involved in a practice that maybe isn't one that you know that much about, or that's like comfortable for you to participate in as an artist. So I am not a performance artist. I'm not very comfortable with it. I don't have like a social, political, cultural dialogue that happens in my work. So it was a way for me to like see what that type of work looks like, be engaged in those conversations with someone who is active in that space. So I was just like a helper for someone else's important information. And I just really loved that experience, and I just really like his work. So yeah, that's our first share.
Whoa, heavy share.
But it's like, did you do that when you were in school? Did you like participate in other people's art projects? Was that like...
I didn't do as much of that, but something cool that I experienced that was a little bit more unique was that while I was an undergrad, I was hired by the gallery that was kind of connected to the university, the Anna Leon Owens Gallery at NASCAD in Halifax. I was hired to be the gallery photography assistant. So I was taking photos of all the shows that went through for like almost 2 years. And something that was cool is that when we had, a lot of the shows were weekly undergrad shows or bi-weekly graduate shows, but also we had visiting artists and stuff like that coming in and bringing really interesting work. And often I was given a chance to, or I was asked by them or hired by them to take more photographs. So I would get to spend some time with them in the show and document the work and get to talk to them about the show on a in more in-depth level. And there were some really interesting shows that I got to chat with artists about that I can't remember the names of the artists specifically or the shows themselves, so I'll spare you the me going, oh, and the work was like this, and the whole weird meandering uncertainty. But yeah, that was one of the things that doing my undergrad afforded me. Cool.
I think that like that's something that I actually wasn't aware of him. It's probably because I grew up in a very small town and we weren't necessarily close to like any major galleries in any capacity. So I didn't know that you could like look at calls for participation. And so when I sort of was like opened up to that in undergrad, it was really fascinating to know that that was even an option. And, you know, we still kind of continue in that practice now where like if there's an opportunity to do anything, get involved somehow. Yeah, I think it's just like it's fun seeing all the behind the scenes, how things are set up, what the context is, get a little bit more of a like informal chat with the artist instead of just going to like an artist lecture and like hearing them deliver usually something that's like very planned. Oh, our landline is ringing. It's probably a telemarketer.
It's the police.
No, last time it was a minister calling to talk to me about the current political state.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was
a big
actually
conversation,
just before willing to hear people out, so we chatted for a bit, but it didn't really amount to anything. I'm not religious, so oh man. I don't know how to turn the phone off. But anyways, your turn.
This
is live, guys. This is the reality of
this print okay. This print I'm pulling out because I think it's just like such a smoking hot, beautiful lithograph.
Oh, look at those washes.
Yeah, so it's a stone litho print made by master printer Euler. He made this while he was blah, 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 studying at Tamarind.
Oh,
and
okay.
So when I was on residency at the St. Michael's Print Shop in Newfoundland last May, we did a little trade. I traded one of my monotype prints for this really hot lithograph. Anyway,
I like the top portion. Can you hold that up a bit closer?
Oh, like this?
Yes, yeah.
Hmm.
So maybe we could talk about how that works. That would be cool.
It's like the most techie touche wash I think I've ever seen in my life. Like when I first saw this, I just thought it was I thought it was a monotype print and that it was just some like wacky solvent kind of stuff and when I found out it was like an editioned print, like this is 11 of 20.
Or is the black printed?
No, it's white paper.
So then it would have been like a reversal.
Would have been a bite.
Yeah, I think it's I think there's some stuff going on in there. There's some stuff going on in there.
That is so lovely.
It'd be so cool if Eric was watching right now and he could just type some information about it for us. But Eric's work is really cool. Like he's a very in the moment, very gestural. A lot of just his gestural mark making is really, really cool. And he also does plein air painting. And he talks about plein air painting as being like the most punk rock way of making art, which I just think is the funniest thing I've ever heard. Because in my mind, it rings full blown of like, out in the wilderness is like old fuddy-duddy sort of, just like the most classic, like imperialist way of painting. But he's like, no, it's like the most punk rock way. He goes out there with oil sticks and he puts paint in little tubes and just like draws with these big, Eric Euler, that's the one. Everyone knows who Eric is. So I just think that's like his approach to art making is super, super inspiring. Like for me, when I showed up at St. Michael's Print Shop, I don't have any examples of the prints that I started making after meeting with him, but I had such a hard time at first getting started, just digging in. And he was like, oh, you should just whip off some monotypes, just warm up. And I was like, I've never done that before. It's not something I just do.
It's not something, one doesn't just whip off monotypes.
Yeah, but then...
plan for hours.
Exactly, but then I whipped off some monotypes and I just cranked out a whole bunch of prints and it was really, really fun. And it's not stuff that I could imagine making over and over and over again the way he does. Like he'll blast out prints like nonstop. I had to kind of come back to really planning stuff. I'm not that much of a gestural mark making type printmaker, but I learned a lot in that moment from his style of working, and his attitude and approach to art making is just very very unique.
That method of thinking is so valuable. I saw Jan on here, Jan Witten, who was one of our professors at Queen's, and in my third year I was like in painting class just making garbage or not making anything because I didn't know what to do. And Jan pulled me into her office and she was like, you know what? Just paint something. Like just come in and just paint literally anything. Don't overthink it. Like whatever you see, like read a book, like who cares? Just paint. And then eventually you will start painting something that interests you and you will be able to continue. But like struggling and festering about it is just like resulting in no work and
Mhm.
making you feel very anxious and not productive. Whereas if you just like come in and like don't put a lot of pressure on it, and it seems like, yeah, of course, like that's advice that I can't believe I didn't think of on my own. But it was like this freedom, you know, just like
Mhm.
all of a sudden I had permission to just, like, I was painting weird, like at one time I would paint a landscape, then I would paint a toilet, then I would paint a portrait, like sometimes I would just paint a blank color, like it didn't really matter, but that like weight off my shoulders to like really make something that was like powerful, life-changing, like the,
Mhm.
you know, whatever, this work that was going to be exactly representative of who I was and what I was thinking about and my entire history and my future. Like, I think I just made it too complicated and too scary.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so just being told, like, don't, just stop doing all of that and just put
Mhm.
some color on a piece of canvas or paper or whatever. Just
Yeah.
do this
Just make
action.
come in the morning and actually make something in your studio instead of eating snacks and like pretending to read.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
did a lot of that in my undergrad. I don't think I started really producing until I genuinely leaned into just doing what I wanted and not worrying about how it would be received. And
Hmm.
it was, I mean, I don't think it always works out for everyone, but I was really lucky in that what I wanted to do ended up grabbing really well for me and just kept doing it and it worked. So
That's awesome. And I really like this print.
yeah, it's cool.
It's a
It's
good
like,
one. It's a
yeah,
super good one.
it was hard. When I offered to trade, he was like, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll take this print. Which one do you want?" And he pulled out a whole bunch of like monotypes and lithographs. He's like, "You can have whatever one you want." And I was like, uh, I like looking at the prices on the back of some of his prints. I'm like, I can't take a $400 print from you. Like that's not a fair trade. I made that print in 20 minutes. Uh,
But if you like
anyway.
it and the trade is there, then,
Oh,
you know.
exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah, I ended up going with this one. I was very pleased about it. So yeah, I have another one too, but it's I'm not gonna show you 10 prints today. I'm gonna show you three. Pin.
Okay,
Yeah.
stick to it.
Do I
All
pass the
right.
hat?
This is our second one. I'll kind of take you on a journey through it.
Whoa.
Well, I'll show you from far, and then I'll take you on a journey. Is that all showing up? I think it is. Yeah.
This was by
What
a
a
past
rock.
resident of ours, Jolynn, and we will do a terrible job pronouncing Jolynn's last name. I think it's
Reigeluth?
Reigeluth?
I don't know. We're terrible. Sorry, Jolynn. We love you, and your work is great. So it's an etching aquatint with collage
And then hand
and then
color.
hand painted.
Whoa.
So like, the hand is the etching, and then like this is some hand painted elements. This little guy is an etching. The bits down here are collaged bits of old comic books. And then this guy up here, sorry, I'm on a desk, so I can't like, he's also an aquatint etching, but he has some hand painting as well. So yeah, nice like dense, rich little print here. And Jolynn's work, like she does mostly, or she was doing anyways, mostly etching when she was staying with us, and some large, like quite large painting collage pieces.
Yeah. But I'd say like etching was like kind of her home base at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe her practice has shifted a little bit, but
And she was like really interested in looking at sort of like odd human behavior or like strangeness in like human interaction. So some of her pieces were like based on characters that she saw in the retail environment where she worked, which and like just spaces that she would be in, like grocery stores, and just like kind of noticing people that like stood out in those spaces and the actions that they had, and why they were standing out against the crowd of other people. and then sort of exaggerating those almost like a comic book style, to like have just like a conversation about humans and behavior. And I always like, yeah, I get very nervous when I
think you
talk
did
about
pretty
people's
good.
practices. I'm like, this is also a little bit like of my interpretation of
I
things
feel like
all
that's
the time.
really accurate,
Okay.
though. Like, she was really into, like, depicting human behavior and trying to illustrate that.
I like remember a story that I do not remember in like detail of her talking about like a gentleman that would come into a grocery store and eat the salads in the salad bar, and I can't remember if he was like eating them on site and not paying for them, or like maybe eating from the spoon that was like there. But it was something to do with like a guy in a grocery store eating from the salad bar in an inappropriate kind of way for the context of where he was, and him being such like a driving force of just like, you know, why is this so weird? Why is this so uncomfortable? Yeah, context of space, etc. But also like her prints are just pretty spectacular.
Yeah, that's a really cool one. That would be really fun to see in person.
Yeah. Yeah, like the textures that are happening, especially like in the hand. I wish that it's like the nail. I don't know if you can see that super well. It's like the lighting.
It
Well,
would
and
help if
also,
my phone wasn't miniature.
oh right, yeah,
Yeah.
we're on an iPad, so it makes it a little bit
Ah.
easier. But just like the fingernail in itself, like all the texture that's going on in the fingernail, it's just so. It's like gross but wonderful.
Grotesque.
Yeah. Well, and I think her work does have a lot of just like sort of gross elements to it, but in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
In a good way.
Good gross.
Yeah, good gross, you know.
So that was our second share.
Nice. So I guess it's my second. I'm gonna take. I'm doing small prints. This one is. This one I
those
forgot
colors.
I had. Yeah, it's really nice. The light was better here earlier. I'm gonna turn that a little bit. I'll hold it up close so you can see. So this is by Laura Grier.
Oh my gosh, that's lovely.
Yeah, and they're an Indigenous artist that is currently working out of Toronto. But we met in Halifax, but we traded prints back in Edmonton, Alberta, while we were both making work at the Snap Print Shop. And some of the stuff that we're working with and talking about industry and nature around that time were some very similar themes. So it was really cool to trade for this print. Like this one is called Moline Lake, and Moline Lake has a really bizarre history, sort of a sad history.
Where is
Morgan's
it? I
got the
don't
woo
know.
on that.
I
So
don't know where
Moline
that
Lake is in Jasper National Park, and I'll try to not go on too much of a tear about it, but there's an island there called Spirit Island.
Okay.
And a long time ago, it was discovered by a settler explorer who was guided by a man named Samson Beaver, who was an Indigenous guide, and the lake was called Chaba-Un, I think. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's essentially Beaver Lake, and it was considered a sacred space, and Spirit Island is this really beautiful, like, I don't know if it's a true island. I haven't actually visited it in person before, but the history that's relevant to some of the work I was doing and some of this stuff was talking about the commodification of natural landscapes in Alberta. And when Kodak, the camera company or film company, came out with color film, one of their first advertisements was in New York City. And it was a photograph of Spirit Island on Moline Lake. It was one of the very first advertisements made from these color film photographs, and it exploded in the tourist industry. And so the the woman who discovered the area actually wrote some interesting things about the first time she had visited there, and then also wrote some interesting things about the train that eventually made it possible to access the space, and she called it an iron python, and referred to it as like an intrusive creature, kind of like contaminating sacred landscapes, essentially.
Right.
So it's a really interesting history in general, but it's kind of cool. Like I asked Laura quickly if they had any like extra points that maybe I didn't know about this print, and they pointed out that it's pretty obvious. Like it's we're thinking about Canada and Alberta sort of putting industry before natural landscapes, but also mentioned that this sort of ghost of the oil rig is sort of not showing a reality, but showing what is not really far from the reality. And then I realized in talking about all this too that the ghost oil rig is kind of the spirit island on Moline Lake in this image.
Oh.
So it's a really, really smart little print.
Is it a screen print?
It's a screen print, I believe.
It's
I
really
could
quite
very well
nice.
be wrong, but I'm 90% sure it's a screen print. So I think it's a halftone with, I think there's like a 4-color halftone. But yeah, it's a really sweet little print.
Such a nice print. Great colors too, and yeah. And such a Alberta's got some.
Apparently, it's been a long history of the same stuff, and
I've been signing a lot of petitions, and
yeah,
I would
it's
encourage
getting
others to as well.
It's getting worse over there. Getting worse before it gets better.
That's a great share. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Laura.
Okay. So last week we showed one of Kyle's works in progress, so this week we're going to show one of mine. So, oh yeah, reversals. Cool. Interesting to see this one backwards, actually. So this is a little, it started as an acrylic painting. Well, that's actually not true. No, that's worse.
That's much worse.
It started as me trying to learn how to paint digitally in Procreate. So I watched an illustrator on YouTube, who I do not remember the name of, I apologize, teaching people how to do like painting layers to create basically like a little animated character. And I've been thinking for like quite a while, I've been doing these like abstract paintings since undergrad, and I often paint the exact same marks over and over and over again. So I decided that I wanted to try to like do portraits of the marks. So they started out as marks from like messy spaces or spaces that give me a lot of stress, because I have been like a pretty intense germaphobe since I was a child. And so I started trying to make myself feel less scared of gross spaces like public bathrooms by making the marks in those spaces the subjects of my paintings. And so now I've taken the
That
marks.
kind of extended from the talk you had with Jan about just starting and beginning anywhere and just doing stuff. Part of that was like, oh, these marks on the floor look cool.
Yeah. And so yeah, I decided that I wanted to try to start doing portraits of the weird marks and shapes and make them feel a little bit more whole and living. And so I followed this guy's tutorial on Procreate, which was really interesting and fun. And then I started painting it as an acrylic painting and quickly discovered that I just don't like acrylic paints. I really wanted to, like, so bad, but they are not my friends. But the guy, I call him a little guy. I don't know why. He's not really. This shape thing here is acrylic paint, and then the exterior that I'm building up is oil. And I'll start probably building on top of the main character in oil as well. But yeah, so this is like a little project that I'm working on right now. It's completely different than what I am used to doing. But yeah, it's kind of fun.
It looks cool. And you started, so that process kind of began with Procreate, and you were sort of trying to recreate that process in acrylic?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Which, naively I thought was going to be easier. But, turns out when you draw something digitally and then you don't have, like, you can't be like, oh, wait, I want the, like, brush mark to land at this type of splatter rate, and I can adjust that in Procreate. But then you have a real brush, and it does what it wants to do. And, it's covered in dried up paint from years ago because you never washed it properly or whatever. Yeah.
Oops.
Or you're like, these are the colors that I have because it's locked down and your business isn't operating, so you can't afford to spend money on new materials. So it's not exactly the blue in the picture, but this is the blue that you have, so you make it work.
Hey, that's okay. I had a third print that I'm still happy to share, but I didn't seriously consider about what I would want to share as an in-progress print, but then something popped into my head. Because I remembered I have one that I was working on recently that I didn't get to keep working on. So I'm just going to give myself like 10 seconds to try to find it. And if I don't find it, I'll come back and I'll get back on track.
Do it.
Sing a song. Sing a song for us.
No, don't actually.
Also, I can still hear you, by the way. So.
If anybody has any like thoughts or questions you want to like pop into the chat, now is the opportunity.
Yeah, share your questions.
While we wait for an in-progress art to be discovered.
Found it.
Whoa, that was fast. Well done.
I knew I could find it. Let's go. Here we go. So, when I was packing it, I packed it in a rush, and so it's bent. But I made a whole. I mean, what is this?
It happens though.
Yeah. So, anyways, it's really not precious. Anyways, it's sort of the point. But I mean, it's on beautiful like kozuke Japanese paper. But so in the spring, I managed to make some screen prints that I was really, really pleased with.
Yes.
So this is an image from a trail camera.
Oh, okay. That's why it's so glowy and terrifying.
Yeah. So it's an infrared photo taken at night, and I started doing these experiments here in Quebec in the same property where I'm staying now. So over the break during school, I put an infrared camera out, and I got photos of like foxes and deer and me, and I got a whole bunch of photos of me by accident while I was setting up. That's me.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is like a photograph from when I went out. I went out to check the camera. And while I was out there, it was it was snowing so heavy, and there was a bunch of really fresh snow. And so in front of the camera, I'd been thinking a lot about performative acts in nature. And so I used that time as an opportunity to experiment, and I buried myself head first in the snow, just like shoveling snow on top of myself. And what you see here is after laying in the snow face down buried while it was snowing, I just came up straight up, and this is right after being buried for like 7 minutes.
That's what that imprint is, like that's kind of around you, or?
Yeah, just underneath there.
Cool.
Yeah, so it was kind of funny, but the idea with this is what I want to do. I printed a whole bunch of these, and some of them were kind of weird because the vacuum table I was using was like sucking the paper down too hard, and I got a bunch of like dots.
Because it's such thin paper.
Yeah, and then early on, I didn't realize that one side of the blade on the squeegee had like dents in it. Like it was pretty chipped. And so when I pulled, I just got this streaky, crazy thing.
Oh,
And then I was like, oh, I have to switch blades. And the next one was worse. And it was really funny. And I was like, oh, this is going horribly. And then after I had all these prints that looked really, really cool. And part of the idea was that I want to use these in a big installation. So I'm gonna have a few walls maybe in a medium-sized room, just completely covered with these images, the different ones of of because the camera always stays in the same spot, but then you have different animals coming in and out at
Mm-hmm.
different times of day, different days of the week, or different nights. And the idea is to sort of compress time into one space and make the time scale non-linear.
oh, I really like
Um,
that, man.
Yeah. Is it the same
yeah,
paper you printed on for the sleeping bag?
no, the bag cover, the bivy bag was Tyvek. So
Oh, it was
um,
Tyvek. I wasn't sure if
yeah,
I invented that because it's a similar thing that we had used in school for a project. So it was
oh
like,
really?
am I just conflating these?
No, yeah, this is actual Japanese paper. It's machine made. It's not handmade, but it's a kind of nice toned
Mm-hmm.
paper. Um, so yeah, that's the idea with that, and I mean that got kind of hit the brakes because I was literally printing a whole bunch of those and preparing positives right as everything shut down. So
Oh,
that got put all the way
Oh,
back on the back burner, and then the back burner was taken away from me. So so it goes.
well,
That's okay.
that is how it goes. And
Yeah,
those positives aren't going anywhere, so you'll be able to,
yeah, exactly.
which is a
So
good thing.
yeah, so that's kind of on the books as like the next print project to dig back into once I get back um, once I get back into it.
What's Morgan say?
Somebody,
Morgan says she loves this
Marlene
idea.
Crete.
Marlene Crease has a great series of photographs taken by trail cameras. Is that like, as
Yeah,
in Marlene and David? Because I think that is the same Marlene. She lives in our area now.
I don't know. I don't know.
Marlene
I
Crete lives in Newfoundland.
So no.
Um,
She was living in
um,
Newfoundland, or maybe it was Halifax. Anyways, East Coast.
okay.
But
she
Yeah,
does a lot of
Marlene
photo
Crete's
reviewer
rules.
work.
I was very
different.
lucky to meet Marlene last spring, and I had been thinking about doing trail cam photos, and Marlene was showing some of her in progress work to me and a friend while visiting, and I asked her straight up. I was like, "Hey, I'm working with a lot of similar ideas to you, and you're a very well established artist, and like I don't I don't know how to make work that I feel like other artists have already done." And she gave me like a very, very good, awesome response that was essentially just like, "Oh, well, sometimes other people just do work, so you don't have to." And like, and if people are thinking of similar ideas to you, it can be a form of validation because it means that what you're doing is like worthwhile.
Oh, that's
So,
actually really nice. It's like that's something
yeah,
like I've always struggled with. Is like there are no new ideas. Everything's been done before, and it's like, what's the point of my weird job that I've chosen? But that's
yeah,
a very good sentiment.
yeah. She's super sweet, really generous, and very sage advice when it comes to making work. So after that, I took to, I put up trail cameras. I did this stuff, and also like not my property, but having photos of animals in this property and so on, very similar. But then you find your own way to spin it. I think it's more important to do and be respectful and cautious and don't just copy people, but like to do something and allow yourself to find what works for you, in place of being, this comes back to what we talked about at the very beginning of just being too scared to make work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like it's better to make the work and decide later what to do. So,
No, I completely agree with that. And I think that
oh yeah, Morgan got
there's
food.
always going to be influence in what you're doing, whether it's like another artist or something you've watched or a person that you are around all of the time, and that's going to seep into whatever you make. I think even if you made work without intentionally referencing someone, it's likely
Mhm.
the reference is going to be visible to someone else, even if it wasn't like at the front of mind when you were working on it. So I'm also excited to see where this goes. But you've done a lot of like full room takeovers that are,
Yeah.
yeah, like I wish we could have had that when you were here. Something that would have been. It's always like a challenging aspect of our space is that we don't have like anywhere to exhibit. We've created like fictional budget lists. If we just had this like someone, of the 9 people that are currently watching this, if anybody just has like a weird supply of cash that they want to throw at a project,
300,000.
yeah.
Not much. Just shy of $1 million.
We have some really good ideas so that everybody
For
that
some
stays
empty
with
rooms
us
with white walls.
could put work up and we can see everyone's ideas come to full light. Because I love installations and seeing mass scale wall pieces of.
I think they'll have a really
so
good
satisfying.
presence. Like if it is like the same trail camera and it's like the same position and there's like just that many, like 10 up by like 30 across, like it's gonna have a really good impact.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I've been dealing a lot with like audio recording and poetry and bookmaking, and I kind of want to just blur the line between digital and physical space, and also between like being in a room and being in a book.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I think it should be a big fat mess when I start, and that'll be just right.
Yeah, it'll be perfect.
Yeah.
Do you have was that the third share or was that like a bonus share?
Oh, that was a third share, but I do have another thing I
You
had.
have a bonus one? Can we have a
I guess I
bonus
have a
share?
bonus one. Yeah, so I
I
felt
wasn't
bad
sure because you got up and went to find it, so I wasn't.
because I wasn't planning it, and then I got excited when you showed in progress work. I was like, I want to show in progress work. Do I have any?
It's a weird thing to show, but
This is a good bonus share because it's just like a mellow little print, so a little shout out. So this is from John Green, another pal. John Green is one of my closest friends, and he made this print for Snapline. So it's like a quarterly publication from the Snap print shop. There you go, Morgan, drawn it.
Morgan showed some of those as well.
Oh,
so
really?
It sounds like such a great like collaboration between the space and printmakers.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. So John gave me one of these because when he made these, he had to go away and he needed someone to stretch all his prints for him, and I stretched all of these. And so I got one, and that was worth the work. So I got paid with this print. I didn't trade for this one. I got paid with this
What is
print.
the process of that one?
This is intaglio. So I'm pretty sure this is etching and some dry point. I don't know. It looks like dry point.
It's very nice.
But yeah, he's a really, really good printmaker. I mean, I think for Snapline they do an edition of 60. So it was
60 etchings.
It's 60 etchings. Like,
some time
and they don't.
went into that.
The artists get paid, and they get paid a decent amount, but if you break that time into making 60 etchings, it's not a very good amount.
For those who are not printmakers, to like ink up and print like an etching like that could be upwards to half an hour for one. So you're looking at like probably 30 to 40 hours to print this edition once you can factor in all the ones that were done.
And that's just the printing, not the actual like making of the image, working of the plate, cutting up the paper, etc.
He did it smart with this. He did a sort of a 2-part thing. Morgan just said you can buy this print on the Snap website. I wonder if I should buy the other half of it.
Also,
and yeah, it was 2, yeah. So it was kind of maybe a little bit of a bait and switch as far as Snapline is concerned, because then you only got one or the other with your subscription to Snapline. So maybe it was like the perfect money making strategy for Snap. But no, I think the way he went about making this was really smart, given the budget, given the time, and
Yeah.
yeah, the John's other work is really really hot. I had another print that I wanted to show by him, but it's framed up in another province right now, so I'll
The
show this
joys
one.
of
But
being away from
Mm-hmm.
your normal space.
yeah, but I'll have a
That's
normal space again soon.
that's awesome. Thanks so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, thank you.
It's always nice getting on Fridays and visiting with people and
Mhm.
looking at art and chatting. It's like
Yeah.
something I look forward to now every Friday.
I was gonna say, and I'm like, wow, I want to do this every Friday.
Well, we'll probably cycle through again. We have our first writer with us next week,
Whoa.
which I'm like pretty stoked about.
Oh,
Yeah, so it'll be like a little different step away from the visual art. Although I don't know what she's going to show. She might end up showing
Sure.
visual art. I have no clue. That's the other fun thing is that we don't know what's going to be shown.
it'd be cool to
But,
borrow this format for like a poem swap, where like
mm,
each person reads like 3 poems.
Oh, that's a great idea.
yeah,
That'd
that
be
is.
cool.
Maybe we'll find
I'd do
a
that.
poet and bring
Yeah.
them on. I
I'm a
mean,
poet.
I was watching. Who was I watching live? I think it was like Snoop Dogg or somebody, and they were just sort of cycling through people. So like they would have someone come on, they would do a little chat, then they would leave, and another person would come on, and that could be like a fun way to do like a poetry reading via a live feed. So you could have like a lineup of people, and you're just sort of like having people come on stage, do their poetry reading, and then they leave, and the
Yeah,
next
that's actually
person
really
comes
great.
on stage. Let's organize
Yeah.
that, Jordan. Let's do it.
Oh, down. Send me an email.
Okay. But yeah, no, it's been super nice. Those are beautiful, beautiful works. And you're going to take some shots of them and then send me everybody's info so I can share them on our
For sure.
stories and you can share them on yours. So,
Yeah.
we can let people
Yeah, I'll whip
know
those photos
about.
off right away, right after we finish. And
Cool.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much.
Good to
Have
see
a
you.
Yeah,
super
thank you.
great weekend, and we'll put this on our IGTV so that other people can check it out later if you missed things. But yeah,
And we'll be back next week with another Flat Files.
yeah.
So good to see
thanks
you.
for having me,
Jordan.
guys.
Thank you.
So
Bye,
nice
buddy.
to see you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.